My name is Lily, and I am 19 years old, and I live in a busy university town in the United States of America, where the trees turn bright orange in the fall, and the air always smells like a mix of old books and expensive coffee. I am a freshman at the state university, and I came here with so many dreams of becoming a veterinarian, because I have always loved animals more than I have loved most people. When I first moved into my dormitory room in Oak Hall, I was so excited that I could barely breathe. My parents helped me carry my plastic bins, and my extra long twin sheets up 3 flights of stairs, and I felt like my life was finally starting. But all of that excitement vanished the moment I met my roommate, who was named Tiffany. Tiffany was 19 like me, but she acted like she was 30 years old and owned the entire world. She was from a very wealthy neighborhood, and she never let me forget it for a single second. She had blonde hair that was always perfectly straight, and she wore clothes that probably cost more than my entire tuition for the semester. From the very first hour we were in that small room together, she made it clear that I was just an obstacle in her way. She took over 3/4 of the closet, and she put her vanity mirror on my desk without even asking me if it was okay. She spent all of her time talking about how she was the most popular girl in her high school and how she used to throw the biggest parties that everyone talked about for months. She told me that she was used to being the center of attention and that I should probably get used to it too. I am a quiet person who likes to study and listen to music through my headphones, but Tiffany was like a hurricane that never stopped blowing. She would talk on her mobile telephone until 2 o'clock in the morning, and she would leave her dirty laundry in a giant pile right in the middle of the floor where I had to walk. I tried to be nice at first because I wanted to make a friend, but Tiffany did not want a friend, she wanted a servant or an audience. The biggest problem started during the second month of the semester, when Tiffany started bringing boys back to our room. Our dormitory room was tiny, and it had bunk beds to save space. I had the bottom bunk because I am afraid of falling out of bed, and Tiffany had the top bunk. One night I was sound asleep when I heard the door click open and the sound of giggling filled the room. It was Tiffany and some guy she had met at a fraternity party. They did not even care that I was right there under them. They climbed up to the top bunk, and the whole bed started shaking and squeaking. I was so uncomfortable, and my face was burning with embarrassment. I did not know what to do, so I just laid there as still as a statue and hoped it would end quickly. But it did not end quickly, and it happened again the next night and the night after that. Every time it happened, I would eventually get so frustrated that I would have to grab my robe and my shoes and walk down to the common lounge on the first floor just so I did not have to listen to them anymore. I would sit on the cold vinyl couch in the lounge and try to do my homework, but I was always too tired and upset to focus. Tiffany never apologized, and she never even acknowledged that she was being rude. In fact, she started acting like I was the one being weird for being in my own room. She would tell me that I needed to get a life and that I was ruining her vibe. She even started bringing over this girl from down the hall who was just as mean as she was, and they would sit on Tiffany's bed and whisper about my clothes or my hair while I was sitting right there. I felt like a stranger in my own home, and my grade point average started to suffer because I was not getting any sleep. I tried to talk to our resident assistant, whose name was Sarah, but Sarah was also a member of the same sorority that Tiffany was trying to join. Sarah just told me that college is a social experience and that I needed to learn how to compromise. I realized then that nobody was going to help me. I was completely on my own, and Tiffany was making my life a living nightmare. I reached my breaking point during midterms week. I had a huge biology exam on Friday morning, and I really needed to get a good night of sleep on Thursday night. I told Tiffany about it, and I begged her to please not bring anyone over. She just rolled her eyes and told me to buy some earplugs. That night, she brought back a guy named Brad who was loud and smelled like cheap cologne. They were so loud that the person in the room next to us banged on the wall, but Tiffany just laughed and kept going. I had to leave the room at 3 in the morning, and I ended up sleeping on a hard wooden bench in the library. When I took my exam the next day, I could barely keep my eyes open, and I knew I had failed it. When I got back to the room, Tiffany was eating a bag of chips, and she laughed when I told her I was exhausted. She told me that maybe I was just not cut out for university life if I could not handle a little bit of noise. That was the moment when I decided that I was not going to take it anymore. I needed to teach her a lesson about respect and courtesy, but I knew I had to be smart about it. I did not want to get kicked out of school or get in trouble with the university police. I needed a plan that was quiet and effective, and that would humiliate her just as much as she had humiliated me. I spent the next few days watching her habits. I noticed that Tiffany had a huge weakness for sweets, especially sandwich cookies. I had a small pack of Oreos that I had bought from the vending machine, and I noticed that she had already stolen 2 of them when I was not looking. She thought she was being sneaky, but I count everything I own because I grew up with 3 brothers, and you have to count your food if you want to eat. I decided that the cookies would be my weapon of choice. I went to the local pharmacy in the center of town, and I walked down the aisle where they keep the medicines for stomach problems. I found exactly what I was looking for, which was a box of extra-strength chocolate-flavored laxatives. These were designed to help people who could not go to the bathroom, and the box said they worked quickly and very effectively. I also bought a small pack of the same sandwich cookies that Tiffany liked to steal from me. I went back to my room when I knew Tiffany was at her dance class, and I started my preparations. I felt like a mad scientist as I carefully opened the package of cookies. I took 4 of the cookies, and I pulled them apart very gently so the white cream filling was showing. Then I took the chocolate laxative squares, and I used a small pocket knife to shave off thin pieces of the medicine. I pressed the laxative pieces into the cream, and then I put the cookie halves back together. I made sure they looked perfectly normal and that no brown bits of medicine were sticking out of the sides. I put the safe cookies at the very top of the package, and I put the doctored cookies near the bottom because I knew Tiffany would not be able to resist eating more than one. I knew that Tiffany had a very big date coming up on Saturday night. She had been talking about it for 2 weeks because she was going out with a guy named Chad, who was the president of one of the most popular fraternities on campus. She told me that Chad was taking her to a very expensive steakhouse in the city and that she had spent $200 on a new silk dress just for the occasion. She was acting even more arrogant than usual, and she told me that once she started dating Chad, she would probably be spending even more time at the fraternity house, but she would still need our room for her pre-party activities. She was being so mean and so dismissive that I did not feel bad about my plan for even 1 second. Saturday afternoon arrived, and the atmosphere in the room was tense. Tiffany was getting ready, and she was making a huge mess. There were makeup brushes and hairspray cans everywhere, and she was yelling at me because she could not find her favorite pair of earrings. I just sat on my bed and pretended to read a textbook while I held the package of cookies in my lap. I slowly opened the package, and I ate one of the normal cookies from the top. I made sure to make a loud crunching sound so she would notice. Tiffany looked over and her eyes narrowed. She asked me if those were the double-stuffed kind, and I told her that they were and that they were delicious. I ate another one, and then I let out a big sigh, and I said that I was feeling kind of full and that I probably should not eat any more before I went to the dining hall for dinner. I looked at Tiffany, and I asked her if she wanted the rest of the package. Her face lit up because she loved free food, especially if it was mine. She told me that she was actually starving because she had not eaten anything all day, so she could fit into her tight silk dress. She grabbed the package from my hand, and she did not even say thank you. She just started scarfing them down while she finished putting on her mascara. She ate the first few, which were the safe ones, and then I watched as she reached the ones I had tampered with. She ate all 4 of them in less than a minute. She said that they tasted a little bit like coffee or something different, but she did not seem to care. She finished the whole package and threw the empty wrapper into my trash can. I had to bite my cheek so hard to keep from laughing out loud. I told her that I was going to go meet some friends at the library, and I wished her a good time on her date. She just waved me away like I was a fly and told me not to come back until after midnight because she might bring Chad back to the room. I walked out of that dormitory with a giant smile on my face, and I met up with my friend Maya, who was the only person I had told about my situation. We went to a movie, and then we went to get some burgers, and I told her exactly what I had done. Maya was a little bit shocked, but she also knew how much I had suffered over the past few months. We sat in the restaurant, and we looked at the clock, and we tried to imagine where Tiffany was at that exact moment. The laxative box said that the medicine usually took about 30 minutes to an hour to start working, and it had already been 2 hours since she ate the cookies. I figured she was probably right in the middle of her expensive steak dinner with the president of the fraternity. When I finally walked back to the dormitory around 11 o'clock that night, I saw Tiffany's car in the parking lot. That was strange because she was supposed to be out late. I walked up to our room and I could hear sounds coming from inside. It was not the sound of giggling or music. It was the sound of someone groaning and the sound of the bathroom fan running at full speed. I opened the door and I saw Tiffany's expensive silk dress crumpled in a heap on the floor. Tiffany was not in the room, but I could hear her in the shared bathroom that we shared with the girls in the next suite. She sounded like she was in a lot of pain. A few minutes later, she came walking back into the room looking like she had just seen a ghost. Her face was pale and her hair was a mess, and she was clutching her stomach. I looked at her and I asked her what was wrong and if her date went well. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and she told me it was the most embarrassing night of her entire life. She said that they had just sat down at the restaurant and ordered their appetizers when her stomach started making a sound like a growling bear. She said she thought it was just hunger, but then she felt a sharp pain that made her double over. She had to run to the bathroom in the middle of the restaurant, and she was in there for 20 minutes. When she came back, Chad looked concerned, but then it happened again only 5 minutes later. She said she had to keep running back and forth to the toilet, and the sounds were so loud that she was sure everyone in the quiet restaurant could hear her. Eventually, she got so sick that she had to ask Chad to take her home before the main course even arrived. She said that Chad looked totally grossed out and that he barely said a word to her on the drive back. She said she was pretty sure he was never going to call her again and that her reputation was ruined. I pretended to be very sympathetic, and I told her that maybe it was food poisoning from something she ate earlier in the day. She nodded and said that it must have been the salad she had for lunch or maybe something was wrong with those cookies I gave her, but then she shook her head and said that I had eaten the same cookies and I was fine. I just shrugged my shoulders and offered her some ginger ale. She spent the rest of the night in the bathroom, and I finally got the best night of sleep I had experienced since the semester started. The next morning, Tiffany was still feeling weak, and she was very quiet. She did not brag once about her high school parties, and she did not bring any boys over for the rest of the week. In fact, she started being a lot more careful about what she said to me. I think she was worried that I might have some kind of bad luck that rubbed off on people. A few weeks later, she actually asked for my permission before she had a friend over, and she even started cleaning up her side of the room. I never told her the truth about the sandwich cookies, and I never will. I learned that sometimes you do not have to scream and yell to get what you want. Sometimes you just need a little bit of patience and a box of extra strength laxatives. My grade point average went back up, and I actually made some new friends in my biology class. Tiffany eventually stopped trying to be the most popular girl in the dormitory, and she even started spending more time in the library. I do not know if she ever figured it out, but our relationship changed forever that night. I still live in that university town, and I am still studying to be a veterinarian, but I will never forget the lesson I learned during my freshman year. I learned that respect is something that must be earned, and if someone refuses to give it to you, then you might have to find a creative way to take it. I am now in my sophomore year, and I have a single room all to myself, which is much better for my sleep and my sanity. I still see Tiffany around campus sometimes, and every time I see her, I cannot help but smile and think about those delicious chocolate sandwich cookies. She always looks away quickly when she sees me, and I think that is the best revenge of all. The university experience is supposed to teach you a lot of things, and while most people learn about history or science, I learned about the power of the squirts. It might sound a little bit mean when I tell the story now, but if you had been in that bottom bunk listening to that bed squeak every night, you would understand exactly why I did it. I do not feel guilty at all, and I actually think I did Tiffany a favor by teaching her that her actions have consequences. She is a much better roommate to whoever she is living with now, and I am a much happier student. Life has a funny way of working out, and sometimes justice tastes like a sandwich cookie with a hidden surprise. I am glad that I stood up for myself, and I am glad that I finally have some peace and quiet. Every time I walk past the pharmacy, I look at the laxative box, and I give a little wink because I know a secret that Tiffany will never know. I am Lily, and I am a 19-year-old female living in the United States of America, and I am the master of my own destiny. The end of the story is just the beginning of my successful college career, and I am looking forward to every single day of it, without any interruptions from arrogant roommates who do not know how to share a room. It is funny how a single night can change everything, and how a small box of cookies can be more powerful than 1,000 words. I hope that everyone who hears this story remembers to be kind to their roommates, because you never know what they might be putting in your snacks if you are a jerk to them. It is a lesson that is worth its weight in gold, or at least its weight in sandwich cookies. I am now focused on my studies and my future, and I do not have to worry about the top bunk shaking anymore. I have my own space and my own rules and my own cookies that I do not have to share with anyone unless I really want to. College is a time for growth, and I definitely grew a lot through this experience. I learned that I am stronger than I thought, and that I can handle difficult situations with a little bit of wit and a lot of planning. I am ready for whatever challenges come next, and I know that I have the tools to deal with them. Tiffany might have been the popular girl in high school, but I am the winner of the university roommate wars. I will always remember the smell of the room and the sound of the bathroom fan and the look on her face when she came back from her failed date. It is a memory that brings me joy, and it is a story that I will tell for the rest of my life when I need a good laugh. I am proud of myself for taking action and for turning a bad situation into a victory. I am a university student, and I am a warrior in my own way. I am Lily, and this was my revenge.